My name is Alex Britton, so I did my presentation on the Boeing 787-8, the Dreamliner, Boeing's newest aircraft. So the main design of this aircraft, as you can look at it, has super long wings. Super long wings. It's made of mainly composites such as carbon fiber, which reduces a lot of weight. And so when you look at this aircraft, the design in mind is that they want something that's a mid-sized jet that's not too awfully big like the A380, but it has a long range because it's a lighter aircraft, increased efficiency, and it's something inventive. It's something new to the industry where they are basically making planes out of composite instead of aluminum now. And so it's the next step into the future with commercial jets. So as you can see, just to look at how much composites there are, you can see over half of the airplane's composites. That's including 90% of the fuselage, the wings, and really the only thing that is metal on this is really your leading edges and where your engines are. That's just really for the heating purposes of it. And that's really the buildup of this plane and what the idea all started from. So the fuselage was one of the biggest parts of the aircraft, entire carbon fiber going all the way through to the center. And so they had to develop new ways to create this. So with carbon fiber, you don't have all these rivets and bend points like you do when you do aluminum. So aluminum, you might even have you're going to have these bend points in here. As you can see, there's a divot there, and that like messes up the laminate flow of the air going there, which increases drag. And so when you're having nothing but carbon fiber and you're not having these points being riveted together, you don't have any mess up laminar flow from the rivets being there. You don't have any mess up laminar flow because of the divots where the rivets push against the metal. And also you're reducing a lot of induced drag as well as parasite drag because you're not even having to have rivets. You're having like 20 or 30,000 less rivets, which inhabits to be about like 600 pounds per flight. So that's a lot of efficiency and savings. You can see here with most newer aircraft, they usually have 5 to 6 sections for an aircraft this size. You can see with the carbon fiber, you only need 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so this has less joints, which means it's faster to put together. It means you have to have less material weight-wise to keep the airplane together, which actually is very efficient with your induced drag needing for lift. So the wings are my most favorite part of this aircraft and what makes the Dreamliner the Dreamliner. So the wings are very long, they're very thin. They're dihedral, meaning the wingtips are higher than where they are at the root, which increases lateral stability. And they're also swept back and they're very flexible. So you can see here as you look at the wing, it's very fat. It's very fat at the root, and then it gets thin really after it passes inches. You can see here it's very fat and it goes back and it just gets so thin as it goes out. That's just a lot of the lift is creating right here in the root area, and which if you're able to make more lift here, you're able to reduce more drag out here by having a thinner wing. They are swept, and this really is just this reduces drag with increasing lift. As you can see in the next slide here, see how much drag is created, and this is not the exact wing, but this is one with a similar style. As you can see, a lot of the drag here, the dark blue, is from all the lift that needs to be created. And as it goes down the wingtip, you can see like most of the drag is right here in this area, and so this is where most of your lift is being created from, and then it's just going off and cuts off and cuts off as you get closer to the wingtip. And that makes a very efficient wing, and it's a very efficient style for the speed that they're going at, which is around Mach 0.85. Mach 0.8 is the fastest that they're able to go, and actually the fastest in the industry. So the wing flex is one of the most iconic things of this aircraft, mainly because it is made of carbon fiber, and so it's more flexible than aluminum is and other metals. So you can see here, you can see at just how far up this wing is bending up where it should be. And when they were doing testing, 1G is about 12 feet in the air, which is an insane amount. Why is if you're like this replaces the 767, the wings would maybe go up 5 to 6 feet, but this one goes up double and has been tested up to 26 feet, which is higher than you might be able to even see out of the windows. So with controlling the aircraft, this is a very, very complex wing design. So it has a lot of slats, a lot of ailerons, flaps, and even a flaperon. And so this system, by wire for Boeing. And so really you aren't really flying the plane, the computer is. But while you're flying, normally when we think of our flight controls, we're thinking of usually ailerons, elevator, and rudder, and trim tab. But really this aircraft uses almost every single flaperon, slat to fly the aircraft because to make it more efficient. And that's what the entire design of this plane is to do, is to be more efficient. So if you see videos of this plane flying through, you'll see the ailerons come up and down. You'll see the flaps mainly come on down for landings and takeoffs. But when you see rolls and banks, you actually see some of the slats and air brakes, speed brakes just come up just a little bit. And even the slats come down just a little bit, just through that to make it more efficient and a better turn, really, and a better roll rate. Also with this, it has thrust reversers, which allows for a shorter landing distance. And that's really a very iconic thing for really any jet or any turboprop nowadays. And the engine is very specific for this aircraft. It's the Rolls Trenton 1000, and also GE makes one. But this aircraft makes over, this engine makes over 74,000 pounds of thrust per engine, which is an insane amount. It's topped their last engine, which only made up to 63,000, and that was with a heavier aircraft. So now this Dreamliner is a lot lighter and has even more thrust, which makes the performance level go crazy high, and to where you're able to do a lot more things with this aircraft other than just going to bigger airports with long strips. You're able to land at shorter airstrips, take off at shorter airstrips, and overall just increasing the performance and availability for this aircraft. Another thing is when you look at these flap fairings here, this is usually where they keep the motors. In most aircraft wings, they are pretty large, but here they're actually very small. They're like less than half the size of a normal one, and that just really reduces the parasite drag from the wing. Tips, very iconic about most commercial jets is that they do have winglets, which is basically trying to fix that wingtip vortices that's created by every aircraft on the wingtip. But what Boeing has done with this aircraft is increase the length of the wings. And these are the longest wings for the size of the fuselage and for the size of the aircraft, which reduces the effect of wingtip vortices as the further you go out from the fuselage of the aircraft. So what they did was really just put a raked wingtip. You see coming down, you have your swept wings, but then it just cuts off. And you can be even seen here in the horizontal stabilizer, it just cuts off. And so what this does is really just doesn't create more lift. It allows them to be thinner and allows them to be lighter because they don't have to hold a load, really as much load as the other ones would with a winglet on it, because they create a lot more a load there on the wingtip. So this video is just gonna basically just how the airplane flies and how it affects during a stall. So as you can see, during its flight, you see the aileron move, but you also see this thing right here called the flaperon, and that moves also, and how it manipulates. Okay, it's dropped its nose to probably about 20 to 30 degrees, and as you see, it's a pretty fast recovery for a commercial jet, which is really not really a very, very good characteristic of this aircraft, is that with having a lighter body, having lighter wings, and even an insane amount of thrust, you're able to have better performing aircraft. And as you can see, when it goes down, all them flaps and slats and speed brakes coming out, and then you also see your reverse thrusters coming out, and really just slowing the aircraft down as fast as possible. That way you can land at the small airports that they want to. That way they can really just land with heavier weights and really just have a more performing aircraft. So, thanks.